It's great coming in after Trent. Trent, with almost no effort, caused that incredible story on Al Gore, showing that his home hitting bill was about 30 grand a year or something along those lines. And since that, he has been nothing but a one-trick pony. And this is what he's used for picking up women in bar rooms all over the country. And he's kind of using it like, you know, the one guy who had a guest appearance in the old Star Trek show and then went to every Star Trek convention for 50 years. He's not really doing much of anything else except looking at old girlfriends and court records. So, but it really does show you what this can do. And I know, I've been on a lot of panels, and I've been on a lot of panels like this, and we've done this so many times, and we all skirt around the big question, which everyone seems to want to ask me during this, which is, you know, John, how can I be cool like you? And, you know, is it a, how do I get the quick wit? How do I get the doughy physique? How do I get women to love me? It's a tough question. Actually, I think a lot of people say, you got a radio show. How do you have a radio show? Can I have a radio show? Can I guest host for you sometime? And I don't know how I got a radio show. It really is a bizarre system. And the reason is that in radio, probably much like newspaper, to get in, you don't have to show that you have mass appeal. You don't need to show that you've actually conquered the world. You need to impress one person, the one person who makes the decision. So if you impress the one person who makes the decision, you get a shot and you can get on radio. That's the whole story. But what we're doing here today is completely opposite of that, which this is what most talk show hosts want. They want to be able to find out how they can get their word out and have it sink or swim on its own without first going through some sort of gatekeeper. And in the media, we've never really seen anything like this. We've never seen anything where a writer can go off and do what he wants, a talk show host can go off and start his own show, and there you have it. If it works, you're successful. You don't have to impress the one person. And by the way, in radio, that one person changes every year and a half, like clockwork. So there's a revolution going there as well. We started something at Independence called iVoices, which is an online audio service. We try several times a week to put on about a 5-minute to 10-minute radio episode. Now, when we have about 50 people at one of the Independence Institute events, we always think we're doing pretty well. Of course, we had to go to the parade dancers and inviting them. We had to get some munchies there. We had to clean up after them. We slapped ourselves on the back and, wow, we had 50 people come out to talk about this issue. As a standard, we have at least 500 people who listen to our podcast each and every time we put one out. So some of them have several thousand who come to listen. If you're looking to get started on getting your voice out on the airwaves, try to go the web route first. And I think that's something your blogs could do very easily. But there's something more than that. And I think what we really need to focus on is how do we leverage what you're doing on a blog to get the most out of it. It's wonderful if you have a blog and you have 28 friends who come and faithfully read it, and occasionally people Google it, it pops up. But how do you turn it into what Trent turned into with Al Gore? How do you get it into the mainstream? I look at some of the well-funded left blogs like Colorado Media Matters who've been out to get folks like me and Mike Rosen and Pete Boyles and all sorts of other folks. That's their goal. That's what they're getting paid by Tim Gill to do. They thought they had me a couple months back, when I uttered a nasty word on the radio. I was talking with my friend Ann Coulter, and I asked, so did Obama bitch slap Hillary in this debate? She said, oh yeah, he did. Well, I didn't know that I opened up a can of worms and I was being a misogynistic bastard, but there was a call coming from Media Matters that said that Caldara means women. That was then handed off to their colleague group, another Tim Gill funded group, ProgressNow.org, who organized the boycott of the advertisers, which was really pretty wonderful. And I was thinking, this is the height of what they're doing. You know, originally Media Matters was there to tell that we got something wrong, but here it's nothing more than a great Imus moment. They wanted to get me Imus. What was so wonderful, Ari Armstrong, who many of you know from freecolorado.com or .net, decided, wait a second, this term bitch slap, folks in the younger world use this pretty regularly. He, in the same way that Trent did a quick little search on some of these sites and found out that about 20 times before, in the last couple of years, Denver media outlets have used the term bitch slap, including Westward magazine, but Media Matters didn't seem to mind them. What was even better was that he took a look at some of the other talk shows. Randy Rhoads has used the term. Al Franken has used the term. Daily Kos has used the term. James Carville has used the term. And then the piece de resistance, the same website that called for me to be boycotted, also used the term in the same way I did. Now, so in one day in the Rocky Mountain News, there was this great headline that said, Caldara demeans women, as if that's news. And group says, and then the next page, the next day they had to say, wait a second, I forget what the headline was, that the group calling this has used the term themselves. Not only did it backfire on them, but because a blogger did the research and fed it directly to the reporter, it turned into a news story. So not only did Ari Armstrong do what bloggers like to do, he made the phone call, which bloggers don't like to do. He picked up the phone and said, by the way, that thing you wrote, here's some other information. That was new information. Lynn Marbles didn't need to do the research because reporters don't like doing research. They like getting the story. That's exactly what happened. Well, because of that, Peter Boyles, a talk show host, picked it up Monday morning and said over his 4-hour show the term bitch slap at least 385 times and called out Media Matters. So Tim Gill must have been thrilled that he's been paying money to this organization that when they thought they had a KO, turned out that they got knocked down themselves. What I'm suggesting is, when you work on your issues as a blog, it's nice to be in the cyberspace. One of my minions here can talk about cyberspace. He says, I've never read my blog, I have no idea what's on it. But the key is, when there's something good, I've got to call somebody, and I can do that. Now, a lot of you are still stuck in your parents' basement and don't know how to use the phone, but grab one of your parents, they'll teach you how to dial out, and there's actually other human beings on the other side who will talk to you on this, including talk show hosts, which is why I think you need to start developing relationships about what you do. Might I suggest that the more narrow a blog can be, the more effective it can be. And as Trent has said so well, the media doesn't have the resources to get the job done any longer. They don't have the people. Colorado has now 3,000, is that right, Minion? 3,000 local governments. Over 3,000 local governments. And we did a quick survey of this. A few years ago it was about 2,700 governments. A couple of years before that it was 2,500 governments. At this rate of growth, by the year 2016, we'll have one new government created in Colorado a day. Every single day. Now imagine if there was a gadfly who would be willing to take on that government, actually go to those meetings, write what people had to say, and have one outlet where things could be documented and warehoused, and then the kind of research on that one story could happen. And then with a call to the local paper, you make a story, you get the leverage. We also extrapolated, given the growth of governments and the growth of population, the left will hit their utopia in about 120 years, where there'll be one government per person in Colorado, at which point all problems will be solved. The point being that blogs are fine, but I would much rather leverage a story, and this is what Brad does probably better than anyone in the state, leverage a story so that a reporter can take the credit for your work and bring it to a much larger audience. And you do that not by opining, you do that by finding out something other people don't know. That's what Ari Armstrong did when he simply Googled the term bitch slap in a few of these papers. Found out, lo and behold, this is a term the left is very, very comfortable with. One last thought, the left has a remarkable echo chamber. In this state particularly, they have a well-financed echo chamber. We do not. We don't have Tim Gill, we don't have Pat Stryker. Get used to it, we never, ever will. But it means that we get to do things on the grassroots level completely. That's why state groups like the Independence Institute thrive, because we're built from the ground up. The left is always built from the top down. And I think the jewels that we might be able to find, the diamonds that we're walking over every day and haven't noticed, that's what these groups, your blogs can do. So here's what I urge you to do. Try to be local. Try to find a blog that follows one issue. Keep on it, and guess what? People will find you. They'll add to it, and you can't make use of it.